Hei på deg, og velkommen til Gründerkanalen, episode 366. I denne episoden så skal du få møte min mentor, James Wedmore. Jeg har vært i hans mastermind i 2 år. Jeg har blitt rejected fra hans mastermind. Jeg ble tatt opp på 3. året. Jeg ønsker å jobbe med han siden i 2015. Han er en av de råeste gründerne jeg vet. Han er den med mest integritet som jeg kjenner. Han er den som sier rett ut hva han tenker og føler på den beste måten. Jeg har aldri hatt en bedre mentor. Og akkurat nå så har han en treningsserie som er linket til i shownotene. Jeg håper du får med deg, fordi han er bare den råeste du kan lære ut av. Når det er sagt, så må jeg bare si det at denne podcasten er på slutten en coaching av meg, og jeg håper også ut av deg. Fordi jeg hadde den største gjennombruddet, tror jeg, siden jeg startet som coach og begynte å få coaching. Så jeg håper du tar deg tid til å høre på hele denne episoden. Jeg kan også snakke med James hver eneste dag, men dette er den beste coachingen jeg noen gang har fått i mitt liv. Og jeg hadde et sånn gjennombrudd på slutten som jeg håper du også får. Jeg vil gjerne høre hva du synes om denne episoden, for meg er det den beste episoden som jeg noen gang laget. Så sett deg ned, gå deg en tur, få med deg denne episoden. Vi snakker kanskje, eller han snakker kanskje litt fort innimellom, men er det noe du lurer på, så bare spør meg. James is the real deal, og jeg vil bare si det at denne her treningen kan du ikke gå glipp ut av hvis du er gründer eller har tenkt å bli gründer. Den er bare rå. Så gå med en gang og meld deg på. Du finner det på grysynding.no/James. Så hvis du vil ha en shortcut til den siden, så finner du den der. Eller så finner du det i shownotene. Jeg lover deg, det er så verdt tida di og investeringen din. Og tro ikke, som han sier flere ganger, at dette her ikke er bra, selv om det er gratis. For det er bare mind-blowing. Altså, det er en grunn til at jeg jobbet med han for 2. året på rad, og sto i kø i 3 år for å få lov til å lære ut av han. Og nå, det beste coachingen av noensinne, får du på denne episoden, så nyt! Jeg skal ikke forstyrre deg mer! Nyt! Vær så god, her er James Wedmore. James freaking Wedmore, I'm so happy to have you on the Gründerkanalen. Welcome.
Yeah, thank you so much for having me, Gry.
I'm so grateful for you being here. And as my mentor for a 2nd year in a row now, I have learned so freaking much from you, and I'm so excited.
Oh, that's awesome.
And for those who do not know you, tell us where your story started. You've been an entrepreneur for ages now.
Yeah, I started my first online business. Well, if we want to go technically, which I won't spend too much time here, I was doing eBay back when I was in high school. So that was like my first online business. And I was selling used motorcycle parts and like parting out and restoring classic vintage motorcycles. And that was my first, like, that was back in the late 90s, like 97, 98, 99. And I was like, we had to use dial-up internet still to do that. That's how, I mean, eBay, people didn't know what eBay was in 1997. And I was taking in $2,000 a week as a kid, 16, 17-year-old kid. And I was just like, and that back in the 90s, that was a lot more money than it is today, you know? So I was raking in the dough, but at that point, I always knew I wanted to do something on the internet. And, it was 2007, 2008 when I launched my first like official business, which was I created an online bartending school. I was really drawn to this model of the digital product industry because 2 reasons. Number one, it's in my passion to teach. I love teaching and I love learning. I think people that love to learn love to teach. They love to pass on what they're getting. And then from a logical, so that was like the heart-centered decision. It was like, it's a joy for me. And that's why I still do it today. It's still a joy for me. And the left brain logical side of it was, this just makes sense as a model. And I tell my students today, as you know, that any type of digital product, whether it's the course, the membership, the group coaching, events, retreats, live, virtual, automated, whatnot, is the highest profit margin, most fulfilling business model that you could ever follow. And I have other businesses, and I've worked with people that have other businesses, and like you just don't see margins like this. And when you think about it, it makes a lot of sense because you have something that you like create once and it's digital. And then you get to continue to put it into the hands of thousands and thousands of people for years, and it's crazy. Like, because then you get into this whole world of the power of your as you as a brand. And I have people working with me today that are working with me today because they bought something from me over 10 years ago. And so the big passion today is like, I love teaching. I took a business, one of those online businesses, to $1 million a year. And it was with a $97 online course. So I went to film school. I taught a bunch of things about video because I learned a lot about video, and video was kind of new on the internet. I said I could teach this. And so in 2011, I released a $97 online course called Video Traffic Academy. It did $400,000 in sales in 30 days, and it went on to do millions of dollars in sales since then. And it skyrocketed. It launched this brand as James, the video guy, and it was a $1.2 million a year business. And what I do today is really just teach people how to do that, how to take the digital product-based business to 7 figures. We do that with my signature program, Business by Design. I have a podcast as well, Mind Your Business Podcast, and that's where we share all the nitty gritty and the deets.
But you're not kind of like a business dude, though. You're very spiritual, and you have a charm on all the crystals and all the things. So I love that.
Guy, right? Yeah, I mean, here's my real simple philosophy in life, and I think if anybody adopted this as their philosophy, it transform everything. It's a few pieces, but it's very simple. First is, no matter how challenging, hard, because we're here choosing life on this planet, life is the good, bad, and the ugly. And I've never met anybody who got to the end of their life and didn't go through something challenging. So it's inevitable that we're going to experience pain, heartache, disappointment, failure, letdown, setbacks. And some people have it a lot worse than other people, but I also know that despite that, life is still something that happens for you. And that's a very powerful context to take on in your life. And so if you're operating from that context that life happens for you, even the bad, something radically guaranteeing success will happen when everything that you look at that you're going through, the good and the bad and the ugly, is something that when you go through it, you get to give it to somebody else. And that's a lot of how I look at my life today, is whatever's working for me, whatever has helped me, whatever I have learned from, whatever I've experienced, I want to pass that on to anybody who's willing to listen. So I didn't start out as this spiritual guy with a shaman or crystals or anything. I was actually very opposite of that. I would have called myself, from a religious context, atheist or agnostic, but growing up. And my life became very 3D. It was very binary. It's like you work hard, hustle, struggle, sacrifice, and you win or you die, And that was even my lovely father taught me, over and over again. He beat the drum of life sucks and then you die. And he was like joking when he would say that, but he like wasn't at the same time. It was like, there's truth in every joke. And so that's where I came from. And the short version of that evolution was that wasn't working for me. I was unhappy, I was depressed, and I was broke. And people started, like, I have a lot of beautiful people, a lot more of the like divine feminine in my life, from like my family and who is my girlfriend today and co-host of the podcast, Jen. We're trying to like crack me open, and I just wouldn't budge. And they wanted to like say there's an easier way, there's a better way, and really open. And I wanted nothing to do with it, Gree. But I'm also because I'm so logical, I was a scientist. And so I started like doing experiments, and every single experiment I did, I saw a positive result. And there came a point in my life where spirituality very much did improve not just the quality of my life. And I think that's very important. I think it is so important that we are find ourselves in a happy place of well-being. We're allowed to have bad days and bad moments, and we're all human and we're going through that. But the dominant home base for each of us should be a place of of joy, of gratitude, of bliss and happiness. And people, of course, then condition everything, all their goals. I'll be happy when I have the business. I'll be happy when I make a certain amount of money. And that never happens. And I know that today, without a shadow of a doubt, it's that happy energy within us that's going to attract all of those things. And so when you can be happy without it, it's just going to come in 10 times faster. That started happening in my life. And so even though if we wind the clock back to like 2012, 13, 14, so about 10 years ago, I was beating the drum of YouTube video. You got to do YouTube, you got to do video. And that's what's going to grow your business. And don't get me wrong, still today, using video obviously is a wonderful tool. But something started happening. I started noticing that I felt like there was an incongruency with what I was saying. Because even though video was a tool that I was using, it was all the other changes that I was making inside that was actually making the biggest difference. So that when I did do a video, I was showing up differently. And it just got to a boiling point or a breaking point, yeah, where I said, I have to talk about this stuff. And that's when by January 2016, I released a podcast. And it's really interesting because a lot of people were like really upset. I just started talking about like, spirituality topics that are people bracket as spirituality, from like manifestation, law of attraction and intuition and stuff like that. And that was 2016. And agree, my following, I had about 180,000 email subscribers. I went down to 30,000.
What?
I mean, yeah, like people were just like pissed. They were scared. They had their things to say about me. And there's a Kurt Cobain quote that I love because I'm learning to play the guitar. So I'm playing a few Nirvana songs. And I believe it was him that said, I'd rather be hated for who I am than loved for who I'm not. And that was a beautiful lesson for me of my own authenticity and being true to myself. And if we're working from this model of being a coach or a course creator or selling a digital product of sorts, you can only really give what you already have. So you can't give what you don't have. And that's what I had. That's what I had to give. And that's what had worked for me. And I decided to share it. So people always ask me, like, what was that like for you? And I'm like, I didn't care. Like, I was like, how sad, what a pity for them that they weren't open to receiving this. But here's what's interesting. My list today is bigger. And the business went from 1 to 2 and then 2 to 10. So there's a very interesting like philosophy that if we go on a path of growth, we have to understand. And it's this capital T truth that when your soul or that higher aspect of you craves more, we have to let go first to create the space to let in. But the problem is in the letting go, you have a 3D experience of loss because you're literally letting go. So when I said, I'm going to let go of being the YouTube guy, well, what did you think was going to happen, James? You lost all the people that were there for that. But I didn't put my attention on that. And then when I let in, so much more came in, right? So all of that is to say that simple philosophy is go through life knowing that it's happening for you and realizing that everything that you're going through is now something that you get to give and pass on to others. And that's what I've made my business today. I don't share anything unless it's something that I truly have had a lived experience of it improving the quality of my life or my business. And now I want to pass it on. I don't just hear something and say, oh, I'll just like regurgitate it. I hear, if I'm learning something, life is obviously going to be our best teacher. I chew on it. I try to adapt it or integrate it and work with it. And then I learn that lesson and I say, how can I pass that on to other people? And when you look at business, like if you're not on a path to grow yourself, I wonder how much you're limiting the growth of your business, because your business is a reflection of you. So, yeah.
But it's so easy to say that because I had it's so easy to say it and so hard to do it. So I'm so impressed
Oh, yeah.
that you actually had the courage to do it, because I did a business event called Business Meets Spirituality in 2012 in New York and lost about $70,000. So I was like, no, I got to ditch this spirituality. The world is not ready for business and spirituality. So I caved in and crawled back to my little cave and didn't come out till I actually found you.
See, and that's really interesting, Gary, because my, I mean, I'm trying to think back to like, where was the world at 2012? I was living in New York City. So we might have walked right past each other, you know? And I think about that and I say, people, you know, you just said, hey, the people aren't ready for that. And you could be right. But where I would go, because this is like my stubborn nature, is saying, well, then I'll freaking make them ready. And that's like really what I started doing with the podcast is I said, look, I get it. Because what you have to understand is I already shared it in the story. Like, I came from such a skepticism. So when I talk to somebody, I'm like, I sympathize. I was you. I get it. It sounds ridiculous. It sounds stupid. It sounds, all this stuff sounds like for lazy people that don't want to work. I hear that. It sounds like hogwash, like people that just want to believe in magic. I get it. And I start there with people and I said, but let me prove it to you. Let me convince you. Let me show you. Let me demonstrate. Just try it on. And that's what the podcast became, was like, you're operating so much just in your 3D. And you know, I would say to people, like, look, if I'm making more money than you and you have results that you want, maybe try it on. Just maybe. Like, and I always joke at the end, right? Because at the end of the day, it's like, what's the worst that's going to happen? You just feel happier. You know, that's like, true. Oh no, that's the consequence. You know, you just feel better more often, which is the literal goal of everything, is just to feel better more often. Everything you're chasing, everything you're after, everything you want is because you've decided this will make me feel better. And you actually could do that right now, instantly, in a second. So
I love that. So I freaking love that. Do you think everyone can be an entrepreneur if they don't have the traumatic story to share? Or,
you know, I thought I didn't. So I'll say this. I say this with absolute conviction. As long as the desire is born from within. Like, if you say, I want X, and I say, is that what you want, or like what your parents want, or what society wants, or what TV told you to want? If it's like, no, it's in my heart, this is what I want to do, then it is absolutely possible. And when you get into this realm of quantum physics, because these are the kind of things I like to talk about, the thought form can't exist in the mind without it simultaneously creating that timeline out as a possible reality in existence. So it's already done. It's already there. It already exists. It exists in two places simultaneously: your mind, and as a, let's just call it a parallel dimension or reality. And we're just lining up to it. So if you can think it and you want it, 1,000%. Now, when you ask specifically about like when someone doesn't have that traumatic story, I always grew up with that, or grew up in my business with that same kind of story. I was like, man, some of these stories that these people have are just like when I was living in a cardboard box in an alley, and I never had that. Like, I don't have
Robbins doing dishes in his bathtub.
Exactly. I don't.
Brendan Burchard, you know, like his wife dying under the bills of the waiter, almost died in a car crash. I know.
Yeah.
I didn't have that.
Here's what I do know, though. Okay, this is because this is important. So no, you don't need one of those, and be careful what you wish for. It's like, do you really want, you know, to say, oh, you know, I wish I had that story, because like, you'll go get it, you know, and careful what you wish for. But I do know this. You're familiar with the hero's journey?
Yes, I am. Okay. But
so
I love that.
This is Man with 1,000 Faces, I think, is the title of the
title of the book.
And it's, well, I love to use the like Star Wars metaphor, you know, as a timeline for this, like Luke Skywalker. And the whole hero's journey, and you can go Google this, is someone who's living their normal life, and there's a catalyst for a call to adventure. Like, I got to go do this thing. And they go on an adventure, and just like Luke is now like, I'm going to go fight the Death Star. He was just a farm boy on Tatooine, and now he's like, I got to go fight my dad, but I don't know he's my dad yet. And there's this adventure, but then there's all these challenges. And at the bottom of that is this low point. And this low point is where you almost give up. I mean, it gets like shit hits the fan, the cliffhanger, the climax of the story. And then you resolve it and you come on the other side of it. And on the other side of it, you are now Obi-Wan, and you are now the guide here to pass it on. Mm-hmm. So what I believe firmly is that you go through multiple of these in your life. You can. Some people never go on one. But the people that you're asking, like, is it possible to do this when you don't have this? What I will say is, it's not the biggest or lowest bottom or abyss that determines it. It's the fact that someone went on that hero's journey at all. And an example is, if someone's here, like when we're listening to them, like if Green and I are listening to a podcast and all they've done with their life is sit on a couch and watch Netflix, well, they didn't go on that journey. So what would we possibly listen to them about? And I don't mean this like disrespectfully to anybody listening, but there's a lot of people that all they're doing is listening to something and then regurgitating it. And that will always have you fall short of what's really possible for you. And because it's not coming from your own lived experience. You didn't go on that journey. And so I've gone on several of these journeys. Every phase of my business, I had to go on that hero's journey again to take it to the next phase. And when I went through that, dark night of the soul, or that death and rebirth, I came out of that with something, with more than what I went into it. And that's the beauty of life, because life will give us that when we go after it. And those are the people that end up making the money. Those are the people that end up getting the customers. Because if I sat here and I said, Gree, there was a moment where I get a phone call from my CPA. And even though I told you I was making $1 million, I get a phone call from my CPA when I was at $1 million. And she said, I got some bad news for you. You're actually losing money. Like, I know that you're making all this money, but your expenses are higher. If I needed to, I could take you back to where I was standing when I dropped to my knees on that phone call, and I had total tunnel vision. I had a total panic attack. And I had that panic attack because there was a thought on loop in my mind. And the thought just said the same thing over and over again. It's over. It's done. This is the beginning of the end. I hope you enjoyed it while it lasts. I mean, I was working 12 hours a day to lose money. And I had people all around me, team, stuff like that, and they're all making money. I'm like, what? I mean, I could just go work at Burger King and make more than what I'm doing and work less. And I was devastated. That was a really low moment for me. Was I homeless? And no, this is a different story, but that was a low point for me. And a lot of people I work with today are like, they've started selling something, they've gotten something out there, and it's like, they can't get this thing to actually run like a business. And there's a journey I had to go on where I had to figure that out. And when I figured it out, I realized something very simple. And if you want to go into any of this, I can. It's just like, I'm layering our combos here to give you an example of the hero's journey, but it's a different topic, of course. But what I had to figure out was how to run a business. Mm-hmm. And I'll just say this straight up. Most entrepreneurs have no freaking clue how to run a business. And they let their entrepreneurial spirit run rampant in a business, and the business will take them down. The business runs them And that's exactly what I was doing. Now, today, I'm so grateful for that because I see that in every client I work with. I see that untamed, spirited entrepreneurial endeavors of just like,
Right
wherever
here.
I feel like, say yes to everything. And like, then you're burnt out working 18 hours a day. And I've been making this claim, and people don't like it because I tend to be the doctor that wants to give you your medicine. Like, what do you think I should do to lose weight, James? Eat veggies. Yeah. But come on, there's
Yeah,
got to be like,
but with potato chips and wine.
yeah. Like, can I get the cookie diet too? Or something? It's like, yeah, just eat your veggies. Like, eat healthier, eat cleaner. No. There's got to be something new and fat. And I kind of come to be like that for people. And it's the same thing with before. It's like, I don't care. I'll convince you to do what's right. And I don't need it to be sexy, because what you're either going to say yes to the sexy thing, or you're going to say yes to the boring, plain thing, like eating your veggies that gives you the sexy result. But people are saying, looking at the sexy process, not even blind to the fact that it doesn't get you the result, versus looking at the boring, plain vanilla process that gives you the sexy result. And I'm the latter. And today, like, there's just so many people that don't know how to run a business like a business. And they've been promised this dream that if you're an entrepreneur, you're going to have all this like freedom and stuff. And it's like, obviously it's true, but not if you forget to run a business like a business. That's like saying, I'm going to give you a car. Like, if we're the first person having a car, and I say, Gree, if you have a car, you get to go anywhere so much faster than if you walk. So you got to have a car. And you're like, yeah. But then I just forget to teach you how to drive it. Mm-hmm. So you have a car where you can go faster, but you just keep crashing it. You forget to put gas in it. You definitely didn't put any oil in it. It blows up on you. And you're like, I thought this would be easier than walking. It's like, it is once you learn how to drive it, kid. And that's the thing, is people don't know how to run a business. I didn't. I learned how to market and sell, but that's not a business. And until they're all working together, it runs you. And that was my hero's journey. That was one of my hero's journey. I had to figure out how to run a business. And here's what happened. I took the business to 10 million, but then we had this like explosion in the profit margin. And to have like 45, 50% profit margin on an 8-figure business. Today, I have 8 employees that run a $10 million company. Now, that's at 10 million, okay? And we do events, and you know about those events and whatnot, Gree, right? And there's a lot of moving pieces in my business, but even just taking to a 7-figure business, it's like you and like 2 people, and you don't need that much. And yet what I hear today is people that are making like, a lot of people that are like the 1 to 5 million, and they're like, yeah, we have like 15 people. I was like, holy cow. And so no wonder like the money's all going out, and the expenses, like payroll is a huge expense. So that was a huge dark night of the soul, that huge hero's journey. And I came out the other side of it, and I solved it for myself. And I said, this is what I want to bring into the world. This is what I want to help other people with. So every one of us gets to choose to go on those journeys. And when you go through that journey, you come out the other side, you'll have so much more to give. And you give from that lived experience. It's so powerful and it's so helpful. And you become the guide that is the living proof, the embodiment of everything that you say. Everything I share is something that I have learned the hard way, and then integrated and embodied within myself. And when you're coming that way with whatever that dark night of the soul is for you, that is so unbelievably powerful, because people will know she's been there or he's been there and done that, and they've lived to tell the tale. And I want that. I don't want to have to go through what they went through to get what they now have. And that's the opportunity we all get when we're leaders, coaches, and online experts.
But you don't give up when you meet the hard times. You actually go through it with a mindset that is amazing. I feel there's so many kind of when it gets hard, they kind of give up. Oh, it was meant for me.
Yeah, well, you tell me, why do you think people, like if we had to guess, we're not in anyone's heads, why do you think people do give up when it gets hard?
I think they have a romanticized, it's like a relationship as well. I mean, or anything that is worth fighting for. I think that many people think it's, supposed to be love all the time and fun all the time. And suddenly it turns out to be hard and
Yeah.
growing you. It's not that sexy, to be honest, when you
Yeah.
grow. So I think that just people have a romantic relationship to being an entrepreneur. I know I had it.
Oh my gosh, they definitely do. And this is what I'll say right here. The romanticized idealistic version of being an entrepreneur, I can promise anyone listening to this, you will get that when you operate more like a business owner. That's why we call everything we do the digital CEO. Is entrepreneurs start things, but digital CEOs take them to the finish line. And until we do that, it's like, what are some of the traits of an entrepreneur? Quick start, new ideas, make quick decisions, fast decisions. They do it all themselves, all on their shoulders. Like, that sounds awesome when you're starting something. Yeah. But how long you want to keep running and living your life that way?
Exactly.
And that's why there are these like very famous, startup entrepreneurs. They get ousted from their own companies and then they go and they start new companies. And so if you just want to go to Silicon Valley and live in startup mode, have at it. But I'll tell you, all the sexy freedom that everyone craves so badly is at the finish line, not the starting. There's never anyone that would ever logic say, oh no, starting the business is like the easiest part. Starting the business takes the least amount of time, money, effort. No, that's when we're in first gear coming out of the garage. When you're in first gear of any car, that's when it uses the most RPM because we have to get out of inertia. But once we can get into third or fourth gear, your car is using way less effort. It's way more efficient. It's way less RPMs and it's going 10 times faster. We got to get you into fourth gear. But if you just stay stuck in the entrepreneurial mindset, you're just starting new idea, new thing. Let's do this. I'm bored. Let's do this. Oh, I'm inspired today. Let's do that. And discipline, consistency is the way of the business owner. So let me tell you why I think people give up. It's the same as what you're saying, but I just want to take that further. People give up because they've created a predicted future. They've predicted a future they don't like. So they're looking at what the reality is in front of them. They're saying, this is harder than I thought it was going to be. I don't like this. This is tough. And they're using their present experience, like what's happening right now, and they're predicting a future that they don't like. They go, and it's either going to stay this way or get worse. I have something, I don't like to brag, but I do have to. It'll sound like I'm bragging maybe to somebody, but it's because I have to share with you what's going on inside my mind. So that, because success leaves clues, but not very many, because you can't ever be in someone's brain. And this is something that I think has been absolutely vital and crucial to my success. I don't go there. I don't have that in my brain. I don't go, this is really bad now. And it's either going to stay that way or get worse. I don't go there. And again, like, I'm not trying to be some cocky a-hole, like, but I just don't. I've had too many of those experiences in my life where I say, this is really bad. This is not working. This is tough. And I go, so I'll solve it. We'll make this simple. We'll make it better. We'll make it easier. We'll make it lighter. We'll make it more fun. We'll make it automated. We'll make it life. This is capital T truth. No one gets to argue me on this. You don't get to have an opinion on this. It's just truth. A problem cannot exist without a solution being possible. That's just law. We live in a dualistic universe. So everything it's the law of duality. So we can't experience hot without an experience of cold. Left without right, north without south. Everything is dualistic. It's two sides of the same coin. By this law, problem and solution follows suit. You cannot have a problem without flipping the coin and there being a solution on the other side. And so failure, giving up or quitting, however you want to label it, is saying, I don't believe there's a solution to this. And that is a lie. It's a total distortion. You gave up because you were unwilling to keep looking for the solution that exists. If I had you over and we had an Easter egg hunt, I don't know if you have Easter or do Easter egg hunts, but here we do Easter egg hunts. I don't know. I do it with my niece and nephew. And I said, great, I've hit all these Easter eggs and I've hit 10. And you find 9 and you come back with your little basket and you've got 9. I said, well, there's one more. And you keep looking and you don't find it. And then you give up. The Easter egg still exists and it's still out there. You just chose to stop looking. And that's all it is. Mm-hmm. And I understand that. You know, maybe you don't want to keep looking. Like, James, I'm bored of this. Yeah, I get it. You don't want to do that all day. You want to go do other activities. But if something you're following is something that is your passion, your purpose, and your heart is in it, then you'll look for however long it takes to find that solution. But the most important message there is that 10th Easter egg still exists. It's still out there. That solution is there. And it's only a matter of time as long as we keep looking for it. That's why Einstein said, and it's one of my favorite quotes, you can't solve a problem from the same level of consciousness that created it. It's a very powerful quote if you look at it, because it's actually speaking to a few things. First of all, problems call us forward. Problems set us on the hero's journey. Problems force us to grow. Problems are the catalyst for transforming us into who we need to be to get everything that we want. Problems are the greatest thing we have in our life. Our problems are our biggest ally. They are our best friend when you see them that way. Every problem is something saying, pay attention to this, because this is where you get to grow next. This is where you get to get stronger. This is where you get to learn. This is where you get to get tougher. This is where you get to be more of the person that your goals need from you. And that is just, wow. When you take life on that way, the way most people live their life is through this complete distortion that problems are a bad thing and you're not supposed to have problems. I've never met a successful entrepreneur that didn't have problems. I've never met a successful business owner that never dealt with a problem and avoided, never had a mistake, never had a failure, and had a perfect, flawless record. I've still never met that person. The problems are what you go through so you get to grow and become the person that your goals need you to be. They are a blessing. And when you welcome them into your life, because they're challenges, they're not problems, right? When you look at them as challenges, then you welcome them. And when you welcome them, you no longer give your power away to them. When you no longer give your power away to them, they no longer have power over you.
It can be hard, though, James, when you're in the middle of a divorce or your kids are being, sick, or your health is going down, and it's so hard to, it in your, logically, but actually looking at it, when you're in the shitstorm and you say like, okay, what am I supposed to learn? What's the message? When you are there, you can't see the answer. It's very hard. How do you work on your mindset? Everything is 80% mindset, but how do you actually do it to remind yourself?
Well, the first thing is, number one is that you're right, it is hard. And that's part of the problem, is that people are looking for the easy way. It's easy to complain. It's easy to give up. It's easy to reject what's going on and create coping mechanisms. So you're absolutely right. It is hard. It's absolutely hard. But just because it's hard doesn't mean we can't do it. If it's tough, I promise anybody listening, whatever tough situation you're going through, you are tougher. And yeah, I went through an intense divorce and have gone through other things. And it is hard. And I'm not here to say it's easy. I'm saying it is what is required. It is what is the most effective thing that you can be doing. And it will take something of you, but it will give you so much more. So here's the simple answer that I can give once we've acknowledged that you're absolutely right. That when I can look back at 40 years of my life, and the last two were the hardest, toughest years of my life. And I practiced exactly what I said perfectly. No, no one's perfect. Is that what I made my intention every day? I would say almost every day. So you don't even have to get it 100%. You do it 51% of the time. You're already like doing amazing. Here's the number one thing I would say, and this is going to be really hard for people, but if you do it, it makes everything easier. Someone asked me once, how did you go through this time where I went through a lot of challenges in my life? Like I'm getting like divorced the same like month that my dad gets seriously ill and then dies a year later, so I'm like, your marriage is dying, your dad is dying, like all kinds of other shit was happening in my life, and it's COVID, like all this is
and
just
the house.
Yeah. Oh my gosh. I have house stories. Like, yes. I mean, like I had a botched remodel where the second story caves in while I'm out of town on our dogs. Like, and you're going through all this at once, it's just like, what the heck is going on? And someone asked me like, how did you go through all that? And you're like, fine. And I said, step number one, I had to acknowledge on some level, I chose all of this. And until you choose it, a part of you is rejecting it. And so that's what makes it hard. It makes whatever you're going through hard because you're rejecting it. You're rejecting what is because you don't like it. I get it. If I sat there and, put a bulldozer to the front of your house, you wouldn't like it, but it doesn't deny that it happened. It happened. So acceptance, surrender, and choosing the circumstance you're going through gets your power back. When you try to push away and reject reality, and that's what complaints are. Complaints and judgments and coping mechanisms are a resistance to what
Self-pity.
Self-pity. Why is this happening to me? This is all a rejection of reality. And so rejection of what is requires an effort from you. You have to push it away. And so you're using whatever percentage, a percentage of your personal power and your energy to push away what is. What a futile effort. If the meteor or the bulldozer hit your house, it's hit your house. It is. And it is like people hate that phrase, but it actually is a very powerful phrase. It is what it is. Because it is. That is reality. It is. I mean, hey, it is. It doesn't mean if someone has done something wrong that you condone it or say that that's okay. That's a different conversation. But you still have to deal with what is. And so what I will say is, as hard as all this is when people go through a hard time, I promise you this, it's far harder when you stay in a rejection of that reality. So I say to my students, to the degree in which you can accept what is the degree in which you have the power to deal with it, to handle it, to overcome it, to solve it. So it is hard, but I promise anybody and everybody listening, it's way harder when we continue to push it away because it already is. And that goes back to Einstein's quote of you can't solve a problem from the same level of consciousness that created it. That also means when you choose to look at something as a problem, then all it can ever be is a problem. So perspective, consciousness, if I see it as a problem and I see it as there's something wrong here and I hate this and rejecting it and pushing it away, you're powerless. You gave all your power away to it. The moment I accept what is, and that's what has to happen first. The moment I accept what is, like, you know what? Maybe I chose, and that's what I said. I was like, I believe, spiritually speaking, I come from perspective, and I don't ask anyone to believe anything, but it's funny because when people try that perspective on, it immediately gives them this feeling of like presence and clarity. I believe that when I went through those things, I chose those things. I chose those on a higher plane of consciousness, even maybe before I even came into this body. I chose that. So I chose to go through these experiences for a reason. And if I knew that in my core, and if you knew that in your core, for anyone listening, for whatever it is you're going through, notice how it feels different instantly. If you believed, you have to fully embody that belief or that perspective for a moment. And I don't want anyone to believe anything. I just want you to experiment and try for yourself, because that's what I was willing to do, was experiment and try for myself and say, if I believed without a shadow of a doubt that this is something that I'm meant to go through, how would it change? How would it occur differently now? And every person I've ever asked that to has a complete shift in how the situation occurs to them. And because it occurs to them differently, they see something differently. And when you see something different, you start making different choices, different actions, different habits, and different steps. And because of that, they get a different result, or they go through the other end of that journey. It's meant to be tough. And I think people jump into these spiritual conversations and they start to believe that everything is just supposed to be like, close your eyes and feel good all day, and you'll just like, your bank account will grow. And it's only a half truth. You'll continue to go through challenging things because you chose a different path. You don't have to be an entrepreneur or a business owner. You chose that. So when the moment you said, I'm going to be a personal brand or an entrepreneur or business owner, you chose certain things unconsciously or unaware that you chose them. Like, you're going to put yourself up to rejection and criticism and refunds and cancellations and employee issues. You chose all that. And then we chose it, but we didn't realize we chose it. And we're like, well, I only want the good parts. I only want that romanticized part. And when you can say, like, those things are never going to go away, but you get to choose to stay in your center and not give your power to those things as you inevitably go through all those things, you will so powerfully exceed them that they will feel like little flies instead of like giant mountains that take you down. They'll just feel like a little gnat. And that leads me to something that is so simple and so true that I say all the time. And that is that your business will grow to the level of problems that you are willing to handle. We start this business, we go on this journey, and all of a sudden, bam, we get hit by something. Maybe it's our first hater. Maybe it's our first refund. Maybe it's our first huge failure mistake. And it's so big. And we go, oh. And all of a sudden, without even knowing it, we've actually rejected our path to continue. No more. I can't. Whoo! And we push away. Stop, that's too much. And we don't even know that we're doing it. And we're pumping the brakes on our path. We're pushing away more customers. We're pushing away more sales. We're pushing away that actual vision that we said we wanted, because we're saying, this problem is so big, I can't handle anymore. But every level of business has problems. The level of problems I deal with today, they don't go away. I'm not Walt Disney telling you happily ever after. The level of problems that I deal with today probably would have crushed me 10 years ago. But today they just don't feel like much, and they don't seem big at all. And that's not to scare anybody away. But if there's still people that believe today that you can just start an Instagram account or build a landing page and then like make millions of dollars, that's probably not going to happen. You're running a business. So you're going to have, especially if you're a personal brand, you're going to have people out there that don't like you. Big whoop. They don't know you. You're going to have someone that cancels or refunds or has an opinion, right? Or an employee that quits or something like that. It's going to happen. It's going to happen to all of us. And that's just a part of it, but it doesn't have to affect you. It doesn't have to take you down. And yeah, it'll be tough, but again, you're tougher. So I don't know. I hope that helps.
That helps a lot. So this, I know this in my head, but if I hadn't had you as a coach to mirror myself where I'm at, I don't think I would have come out of my struggle so fast, because I don't see I don't see that I'm in self-pity. I don't see that I'm making it bigger. But as soon as you ask for help, when you just mirror it back to me, I can see it like instantly, and everything changed
Yeah.
just with that perspective. So I'm so grateful for that.
Yeah. And again, when you're in the problem, you can't see it. And
Mm.
that's the thing, is like you're in it. So all you see is that. And they've done tons of studies on this, but fear affects the brain. You know, it clouds our judgment, it distorts our vision and our, discernment, and we take ourselves down. And so I understand a lot of people want to talk about emotions today, but with that conversation, what I have to say actually probably like makes people ironically emotional because you have to have no emotion. And I'm not saying in the totality of your life, but in the context of your business, no emotion. And people hear that and they think it means, oh, this guy's saying like stuff down your emotions. It's like, no. If you're stuffing down your emotions and burying your emotions, then you have the emotion. So I'm saying have no emotion. And here's the biggest reason why. We know this to be true. Our thoughts mirror our feelings, and our feelings mirror our thoughts. And when you throw law of attraction into that, there's an amplification, there's a resonance. So you start putting your attention on something and thinking about something. If I say, I want you to think about your first puppy when it died or whatever, oh my God, it's like, okay, so I put your attention on a thought, you called an image to your mind, and it changed your emotional state. And then when you got into an emotional state, that's going to attract other thoughts and other similar sad moments. And if I start talking about a clown at a birthday party, you'd be like, read the room, man. Right. So it's just a total like different dissonance there. And so when I say no emotion, it's because there's no meaning. And a lot of the emotions that people are feeling in their business is just because they put a meaning on something that happened. And the meaning is a lie. It's a lie. It's like, I'm no good. I'm not cut out for it, or what I was doing. This is it. This is the beginning of the end. So a lot of meanings are predictions about the future. They're decisions about who we are, and they're predictions about the future. And you will see 95% of the emotional breakdowns that business owners, entrepreneurs, online experts get into are about one of those things. They internalized a new definition about who they are. I'm not good enough. I don't have what it takes. No one likes me. I'm too old. I'm too young. I'm too this. I'm not enough that. I suck. I'm a loser. I'm a failure. Bob, I'm stupid. I've heard it all. So everyone's dealing with their own demon on this. Okay. And it's usually a prediction about their future. I suck. I'm a loser. And I failed. And this business is going downhill. We're not going to make ends meet. We're not going to be able to grow it. Or in order to grow it, it's going to take this. It's a prediction about the future. So it's an internalization about who I am, and it's a prediction of my future. I want to say two things about that. Number one, the future is anything but certain. It's a fact. Some of us can really look back and be like, wow, definitely didn't see a lot of that coming. Future is anything but certain. So you just made your future certain. You just decided your fate. And number two, anytime we're doing this, making a meaning about ourselves or a prediction about the future, you have squandered your power. The biggest lie we've all been told in our lives is that you are not powerful. That is the only reason that I can reconcile why we would give our power away so easily. You are whoever you say you are. You create just like God, like with my word, I create. And God created us in his image. So with our word, we create. So you create yourself a loser, you're a loser. You create yourself a failure, you're a failure. You create a future where you fail, you will fail. You create a future where it never works, or it's always going to be too tough, or not what you thought it was going to be. And it is so. That is how powerful you are. And unfortunately, we don't see it that way because we're so powerful. Let me explain. We sit there and say, yeah, but look around. And you want to give me arguments for your limitations through physical evidence. Like, but it is hard. Look, James, look at this. And look at how hard it is here. And look at how expensive it is there. And say, yeah, because that's what you created. You did that. That's how fucking powerful you are. And until we operate from that place, then we're on like a default programming. And the default program is whatever thought we just pop into our brain, we feed it, we decide it's true, and it just drives our life. And, you know, we're going into a serious, like a lot of us need to reprogram ourselves. And that's a serious process, but it can be a lot easier than we need it to be, because first of all, if you just become more aware in your life, you'll start to see that you make meaning out of everything. And you look, once you make meaning, you say like, I'm a failure, or I suck, or I'm not cut out for this. All you'll do is find evidence of it everywhere. And the evidence that you found is the evidence of how powerful you are, because it's just following thought. It's just following what you already decided. And if you would have decided consciously instead of unconsciously something else, like my success is inevitable, then you would find evidence for that as well. So the evidence is just the byproduct of your power in action. And then we can start to sit there and say, I don't need to make any meaning out of this. Business is going to be filled with problems and failures, and it's not a big deal. And why am I putting so much importance on this? Why am I deciding who I am as a human being boils down to my performance in my first year in business? Like, what the heck? Like, why am I making this such a big deal? Why am I wrapping up my entire identity and worth into doing something I've never done before that no one ever taught me, that I'm figuring it out as I go? And then why am I deciding how the future is going to go? And then it gets even more fascinating, because we're constantly trying to predict our future, constantly. And then that's the really interesting thing. When I ask anybody, this is going to blow people's minds if they're getting this. If I ask you to think of your goals, usually calls something, if someone has a goal, like calls maybe like an image in their mind or whatever. And then if I ask you to think about what you think is going to happen, you'll get another picture in your mind. And they're in two different places, and you relate to them differently. So your goals aren't even predictions. For most people, a goal is just a wish. But you get what you predict, not the wish. So until your goal is a prediction, it'll just be a wish. Yeah.
Oh, I love that. Ooh.
Makes sense, right?
Oh, that makes so much sense. Because when you said that, I went into problem like it's going to be la 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 la, but now I see. Wow.
I know.
I haven't heard that one from you.
Watch this. I'll take it further. Who you are in the moment, who you become in the present moment, is a byproduct of your prediction. Your prediction creates you.
Ooh. I'm tearing up. Oh my gosh. Yeah.
Yeah. So
that's next level.
Shit happens in your life. And then you make a prediction about how it's going to go in the future. So step one, shit happens in your life. Step two, you make meanings and predictions. Step three, you put that prediction out in your future and you start living into it. Step four, you become the byproduct of that prediction. So if I told you, you know, I have a DeLorean, agree, and I went out to your future and this is the end. Your business is going to fail. And this is it. And it's going down. And I looked into the future and it's just This is it. And I tried all the probable solutions and everything. It's like, nothing's going to change it. This is it. How would you feel right now?
Shitty.
Yeah.
Like,
would you be like, okay,
heavy?
Okay, let's just double down? I'm like, no, I already looked.
James say you're doomed, you're doomed.
Yeah, right. And would you be doing your best work? Would you be creating your best content? Would you be like doubling down on everything? So the inverse,
looking for escapes.
Exactly. It that prediction creates you.
Ooh.
And oh man, so good. So so then I say, now watch this. You got to humor me with this. It's just an example because it's the power of the mind, folks. And I say, great. I went out into the future and I'm going to go in a little curveball for you. Okay. And I said, gotcha. What I noticed is that there's two timelines. There's a timeline where your business goes downhill. And then there's a timeline where it 10Xs and like explodes on another level. And I realized as I went in both of those timelines, you know what the difference was between the two? There was one difference because you were the same person in both. But the only difference in those two timelines is there was one every day that you chose. And it was the one that you chose, which is the one that you kept going through. Isn't that interesting?
I didn't get that one.
Okay, I'm going to do it one more time. Okay. I went to the future.
Yeah.
And there's two timelines, parallel universes. There's a universe where your business went downhill and it crashed and burned. Again, I say this to everybody I talk to. So this is just a generic example, right? And then I said, but there was another parallel timeline.
Yeah.
Another Gree where her business exploded like 20 million a year, like just unstoppable. And so I got really fascinated about how did two of these parallel universes exist where one went down and one went whoa on an unprecedented level. And the Gree timeline where everything exploded and went up versus the other one was she just chose that timeline every day. She chose that future. And because she chose that future, she lived into that future every day. And if I told you that, what would you do today? What would you do tomorrow?
Choose that every dawn day.
And how would that change who you are how would that, if you chose that today, if I said choose it right now, and you did, and I said live into that future. I said that future is where you're going to make $100 million. That's the future. I'm just throwing numbers out there.
Yeah.
That's the future where everything comes together. That's the future where you get everything you want and more in life surprises you. That's the future that you are living into. Who are you in that moment, the moment you live into that future? How does that change who you are?
That changes me into the $100 million babe. That's it. I'm radiant. I believe in myself. I believe in the universe. Everything changes. Everything changes.
About who you are changes. We are the byproduct.
We do have just got a deeper meaning.
Exactly. We are the byproduct. We are the byproduct of the future we live into, and the future we live into is a future that we chose. You are either choosing it by default or you are creating it and living into it.
I'm still going on that thing. Instead of choosing it every day, I'm choosing it every 5 days.
Yep. So you'll have one thing bad happen to you and you'll choose another future. Yep.
Yeah. And then I go on the dip again. But then if it's
you can't.
Oh, I love that.
Agree. You can't fuck with my faith. You couldn't talk me out of my future if your life depended on it. You couldn't. Yeah. You would fail so miserably at trying to talk me out of it. You couldn't cause an ounce of doubt in my life. And when anybody listening can say the same thing, you are unfucking stoppable.
Stoppable. I love that. Oh my gosh. That's the best coaching this year, James. Thank you.
Pretty fun.
Thank you. That's, oh my God. B2Have just went to the next level for me. I love this. Oh, I could talk to you forever. But where do they, where can they get you as a coach? Let's talk about your BBD launch.
Okay, so we have a training I do once a year. And it blends a lot of what we're talking about here in how to be the unstoppable mofo, but also how to run your business like a freaking business. Today, I say business is very simple. Okay, it doesn't mean it's easy, but it's simple, and we don't need to make it complicated. And so we today have an 8-figure a year business around my digital products. And the people that I love to work with are people that would either call themselves or want to be an online expert selling coaching, courses, group coaching, digital memberships, even events, workshops, whatever. And you want to either start that or scale it. The funny thing is because we teach so much of like the business and structure side of it, I have people that are brand spanking new come in, and I have people go in that are already at 7 figures and we take them to 8. It's a very unique training because it's so new and different, and it has application at every single level, which is really fun. It's called the Rise of the Digital CEO, because we want to teach you how to be a freaking business owner. And I firmly stand by and believe you will get so much of that romanticized vision that you were sold on about an entrepreneur when you run your business like a business. The digital CEO is the identity and the future we live into that creates us in the present, that runs a business like a business. And one of the premises I say, I'll share 2 of them, and then we explain it and unpack it in this free training. The more structure you put in your business, the more freedom you get in your life. So much about what business by design is about giving you all that structure in the business so you can get the freedom back that you deserve. The second one is the role you fill determines the results that you receive. So the role we fill and how we choose to fill that role and run that role will determine how the business runs. And if you're just the entrepreneur, quick start, trying to post things on Instagram on day 1 and sell on day 2, reactively or scared, and then going into your cave because everything failed, like, we got to change that. It's a whole different energy and ball game to run our business this way. And that's what we're going to do. I piss a lot of people off in this training, mostly my competitors, because what we do in this free training rivals a lot of the expensive $2,000 courses out there. And that's because I do sell a program, but my program is less of a course, and it's more the entire execution guides, processes, and structure of your business. So everything is in like SOP format. So I love to do a huge mega free training. So please don't make the mistake of assuming because this is free that it's like fluff. This blows people's minds. So
it blows my mind.
Come ready to
yes.
learn a ton.
And I gotta say, when I had $1 million business when I came to BBD, and I thought, this is marketing stuff. I know this. I teach marketing. Yeah. And boy, did I learn a lot. But I think also the second training you have, I learned about team. And so I went straight into the team training, and but having that VA and with the attitude you teach, with not taking you, first VA that quit on me, I took like I'm a failure, like they don't like me. And now you put the structure in and you gave us the guide just how to hiring people. It just freaking changed my business. So even if you're a newbie or have a business that makes money, it is unbelievable. And working with you is life-changing.
Oh, you're so sweet, Corey.
Thank you. I love you. Thank you so much for your time and your knowledge and your coaching. I'm blown away, James, as always.
Much love to you, Gree. Thank you so much for having me.
Thank you. And I will make sure to link all the links to the training because this is going to be fun.
Yeah,
June 1st.
June 1st, baby. Come join us.
Thank you. Var det holy smoke, eller? For meg, mind-blowing. Jeg jobbet med James nå i 2 år i mastermind hans, men så har jeg tatt BBD, og jeg har tatt andre kurs ut av han. Jeg har vært i kø hos mastermind hans i flere år, og jeg må bare si det at dette her noe av det råeste jeg opplevde han, fordi at det traff meg så. traff det deg? La meg høre. Hvis jeg ikke traff det, så send meg en DM bare, Gry, det her ble snakket over hodet på meg, eller dette var ikke noe for meg. Og hvis det var for deg, så send meg en DM så jeg får høre. Jeg vet i hvert fall at den treningen han skal ha, som kommer opp nå, går bare en gang i året. Gå ikke glipp ut av den. Få den med deg. Du finner den på grysynding.no/James, eller du kan gå i shownotesene. Jeg lover deg det. Dette her noe av det råeste treningen du får på nett, og det gratis. Men en gang i året. Så hiv deg med. Jeg lover deg at jeg blir der. Jeg blir å heie på han, jeg blir å heie på deg. Og hvis du vil lære mer ut av min beste mentor noensinne, så meld deg på nå.